A few days ago, I met this person called Funday. It was the first time meeting her. She was part of this group that I was talking to, and somehow our paths crossed. Now, first time meeting her, I picked up on something. Now, if you are on this path, if you're listening to me, you're basically on this path of spirituality. Either you're just curious to find out what it is, or you've been there, done that, so you're just looking for your client. So I pick up on her energy, and I'm very, very intrigued by it. Why? Because it feels familiar. Now, one day, if by chance you watch this and you're hearing this for the first time, I do not mean to be awkward. I do not mean to be weird, okay? But your energy sounded familiar. It felt familiar. And I kept on asking myself why. And the more I got to talk to one day, the more I realized that it is her connection to Mother Nature, to Mother Earth, that I am feeling. It is her connection to our ancestors that I am feeling. And at that point, I was like, wow. Again, if you are on this path, then you know how difficult it is just finding your kin, just finding people who can understand you, finding a space or a community where you don't need to explain too much, where people don't look at you, don't hear to what you're saying and think this is one mad or insane or crazy fella. What are you talking about? So we got to speak, and she is saying that she is of the opinion that the term African spirituality is just wrong. Okay? And at that point, I was again intrigued. Because what do you mean African spirituality is wrong? I am an advocate for African spirituality. If it were up to me, all of these Abrahamic religions would have been done away with as soon as we got our independence, okay? So 1963, we are getting our independence. Independence, if you know what I mean. The time we get our independence is also the time when the colonizers leave. They leave with everything they came with, including, yes, including the schools, including the Bible, including all of that. I am a strong believer in what African people can do for themselves based on their needs and their resources. Anyway, so the minute she said that she is saying the term African spirituality is just wrong, I was a bit taken aback. Because what do you mean? So she's explaining how Africa by nature is so huge, it is so vast, and it has so many diverse people and cultures and belief systems. Whatever religion or practices or economic systems in the north aren't or may not be the same ones as we'll find in Central Africa, in Eastern Africa, in Southern Africa. And at that point I was like, okay, cool, you almost had me in the first half, but now that you're explaining it, I see what you mean, okay? I kind of dig what you mean, because yeah, you do make sense. Africa in its nature is so huge and so vast. Ergo, it makes perfect sense to, you know, say one term or just two words, African spirituality, can be used to summarize as a summary of the whole. And at that point I was like, okay, this is something new, this is something eye-opening, but at the same time we can't disagree or we can't ignore the fact that there are some common, you know, foundations. Whatever system is in the east is also in the west, in the central, in the north, in the south, and all of these parts of Africa, knowing very well that Africa by nature is diverse. So this is the very nature of this video or of this podcast if you're listening to me from whatever or if you're watching me from YouTube. This is the very nature, to just understand what are these foundations of African spirituality. What are these things that are common from the north, from the east, from the south, from the north, and just from all over Africa. Now, something that we should take note of is a huge part of our culture, of our education, of our knowledge was passed down from generation to generation through word of mouth, okay? So as opposed to it being in a written format, it was in an oral format. Could be just by storytelling or well, whatever podcasting was back then or whatever this is, whatever it was back then, okay? It could be just lessons or music just sung in rituals or ceremonies or at specific stages of life or development. Now, because of this, at some point our language was interfered with in a way, and it was unfortunately made to be less of a proper language compared to that of the colonizer. So you find that if you were colonized by the French, then somewhat your local dialect, using that at the time of colonization, was regarded as a bit backward. So for more people to just fit in, they started to learn French. If you were colonized by the Brits, then you were learning that. So by the Germans, you were learning that. So in between this movement of using our local dialect as the main form of communication to using the colonizers' language as now our primary mode of communication, as I'm doing in this particular video, or podcast, very ironical, okay, I can see the irony. But what I'm saying is, in between us moving or progressing from local dialect to these other languages, a lot was lost in translation. And that was a lot of our spiritual practices, a lot of our cultural stories, our cultural belief systems, and all of that. And this is again common from, again, Eastern Africa, Central Africa, Southern. It doesn't matter which part of Africa you are in. If oral ways was your main or your primary way of communicating from one time to the next, or one person to the next, one generation to the next, then a lot was lost in translation. And unfortunately for us, African spirituality is one of them. Now, there is this ninja called Adolfo. Adolfo, back in 20 or something, I don't know how long his study took, but his book was published in 2016. So Adolfo was doing this particular research about social work and just the proper way of handling communities with African people. And he realized, or he argues, or he says the best way to do it is by understanding the African tradition, culture, spirituality. That way you are not, offensive, or you are not illiterate or just ignorant to the ways and the culture of the African people, of the people you're trying to help. Now, in his particular research, he was again explaining how Africa as a continent is very, very vast. Now, let us digress for a moment here. We all know of this popular map that we use, the Makeda map, or whichever way you're going to pronounce that. I wasn't your kindergarten teacher, okay? So that particular map just shows, the representation of all lands on Earth, okay? And again, if you're here, you have probably listened or read the theories and all of that. So let us just stick to the layman view. Now, that particular map is drawn in a way that it magnifies the size of the countries found towards the north and to the southern hemisphere, while those found at the equatorial region, they're not really magnified. So that projection allows for the presumption that Africa is smaller than other continents in the world, which is not true. Actually, Africa can hold a lot of continents in it and still have space. I don't know if you knew that or not, okay? If you didn't know, now you know, okay? And if you are of the opinions that all of this information is just conspiracy theories, then bravo, it is 2023. Educate yourself, okay? Just take a book, or listen to the rest of this video. Anyway, so Adolfo understood that Africa is large and diverse and has all of these cultures and belief systems and practices and all of this. And he respected that. And he said, according to the arguments that he has been making, you have to, first of all, acknowledge that. And secondly, there are some, general things. Now, these general things, when it comes to African spirituality, there are 6 of them. The first one is basically the nature of existence. Now, according to Africans in general, we believe that everything has the quintessential, the quintessential essence of the creator. This basically means everything that is today, both innate and inanimate and natural and man-made things, they all have the essence of the creator. So if this sweater that I'm wearing right now, this hood that I'm wearing right now, the essence of the creator is in it, this microphone that I'm speaking into, whatever device you're listening to, using to listen to me or watch me from, that has the very essence of the creator. And this was a belief in African communities as well. And with this understanding, we learned a way to respect everything, because we understood that we are dealing one-on-one direct contact with the very nature and essence of the creator. And if there is something or someone who was revered a lot in African spirituality, is the creator. So we understood that it is important to just treat the next thing or person as good or as well, if not better, as how you would, or compared to how you would treat yourself. Now, the other second thing is there is order and balance in everything, basically. The very nature of existence as we know it, as it manifests to us, is order and balance. Basically, we ought to attain a sense of equilibrium, a sense of, balance. Like, you guys remember when back you were in school and our teachers of English would be like, describe this word, but don't use the same word to describe itself. And basically they just wanted you to use synonyms or other words to describe the same noun. And it was difficult, okay, because how do I describe equilibrium without using the word balance? Or how do I describe balance without using the word balance? It's like knowing how to navigate one side of the scale, knowing to navigate the other side of the scale, and understanding the best way to go about life is when both scales have like equal weight or are in equilibrium. Okay, so this particular harmony is what eventually contributes to this general universal flow. Remember, the overall understanding again is everything flows, nothing is stationary. Again, nothing is stationary, so everything flows. So for you to be part of the universe, part of the system of the universe, then you ought to be in the flow. Being on one side of the scale, you are out of balance because the scale is going to tip on one side. So you ought to find your harmony and be in the flow of the universe. That is the way to go about it. Now, the third thing is on social and spiritual hierarchy. Now, here's the thing. Every other African community divided or categorized life into three groups. We had the children in the community, we had the young adults in the community, and then we had the adults in the community. And the minute you're born into this particular African community, then there were rites of passage from one group to the next and to the next. And this is also how many African basically communities viewed their ages. You were either a child, a young adult, or an elder, or an adult. So there is this, I don't know if you've had this or not, but there is this overall knowledge or information or awareness or understanding that a lot of cultures that we took based on after the colonization, after all of this very drastic and very, how do I say this? Como se dice? Very painful, very traumatic experience that Black people and other native communities really had, or under the hands of, I don't know if these guys have actually apologized or not, because they ought to apologize. What was happening? Why were they busy colonizing every other land in the... What was wrong with them? Why? Anyway, prior to all of these new cultures that were taken up during this time of colonization and slavery, Africans just counted ages, like you are born, now you're a child. And then at some stage you'll be an adult, you'll be a man or a woman, or we can't refuse to acknowledge that there are some cultures who acknowledge other genders beyond man and woman. So you are whatever that is, okay? Respectfully speaking, that is. Don't listen and you are like, oh, no, respectfully speaking, whatever that is, then you are that. And beyond that, now you are considered as an elder, okay? So you are a child, an adult, an elder. But now fast forward, every other year, people put cakes and candles and blows and make wishes and all of these rituals and ceremonies, people just do them. And now suddenly you are 33 or suddenly you are 47. No, you are either a child, an adult, or an elder. Which are you right now? Will you be a child right now? Will you be an adult right now? I'm hoping I'm speaking with adults because why am I speaking to children? If I'm speaking to children, please, I hope it is with parental supervision. I really hope it is with parental supervision. Now, that was the social hierarchy in African systems, okay? You are a child, so you're given childlike duties and responsibilities. An adult, adult-like duties and responsibilities. An elder, same thing. So the order of respect, again, it was like that. Everyone ought to respect everyone, naturally, but going or disrespecting your elders or someone older than you was considered so... It was like a taboo. It was like the worst thing you could do for yourself and for the community. So there was this order of respect and order of just hierarchy. Okay? So heavier duties for, not physically heavier duties, but you get the point. I'm hoping, I really, really am hoping that you get the point. Now, on the other hand of the spiritual hierarchy, African communities held or believed, or we all agreed, that there are all of these such spiritual beings and deities, from gods to deities to ancestors to those departed from the physical world. Okay, so we acknowledged all of the existence of all of these beings and the power that they also have. Well, not all of them have the power. Okay, you get the point. If you have power, you have power. And as an African, we acknowledged it and we acknowledged your power. So reverence obviously was given in order. So if you were an ancestor, you were entitled, or African or the rest of the community would do certain rituals in your name or in your honor or with your help, okay? Because a lot was happening in African communities at the time, even today. So social and spiritual hierarchy was very, very important, still is, I believe, in African communities. And I feel as though people who don't understand this importance or this essence, they go around saying that we are worshipping ancestors. And at that point, we are like, bruv, why are you so confident in speaking about something you're not even part of? You can't even get in the club, so why are you speaking about the club? Why are you hating? Why are you just opening your mouth? Anyway, to each their own. Everyone has the right of opinion. But, okay, moving on. The other thing that a lot of African communities held or believed is the cyclical existence, the cyclical nature of existence. This meant existence as we know it, revolves around birth, life, death, rebirth. It's like a cyclic existence. And the very essence or the very nature or the goal of this type of existence is to be unified with the spirit. The minute you're unified with the spirit, then you enter into this ancestral plane of existence, because now you are unified with the spirit, with the source of the creator. Now you are an ancestor. Not everyone who has been born in your lineage and lived and died became an ancestor. No, it doesn't work like that. The more you are in this cyclic nature of life, of birth, living, death, rebirth, continue, the more you have that experience and the more quality lessons you get out of each experience, the closer you are to being unified with the spirit, with the source, with God, with the creator. And at that point, you are an ancestor. And then at that point, the nature of your existence changes because you are no longer bound by the cyclic nature of life. I hope that makes sense to you. I really, really do hope. Basically, a lot of African communities believed also in reincarnation because first time you come to this particular realm, you experience life, you go through all of these lessons, perhaps you did whatever you did, perhaps you maybe did something good, did something bad, and all of this. And after death, after analysis and auditing, we realize you haven't gotten all of the lessons you needed. So guess what? Come back, get the lessons, do that until you are now an ancestor. And then at that point, some ancestors want to volunteer. At that point, ancestors just want to lead or help or become spirit guides and all of these other things. So we as Africans believed in this type of existence and nature of things and life. Now, number 6 is the very most important. Well, most important is very arguable. But this, I think, is the essence of being an African truly, of the Ubuntu spirit, if you may. We held very highly the spirit of being. Let me just repeat that. We held very highly the spirit of being. The very nature of a human being is to be. But it's unfortunate that in this world, a lot of our nature is manifested in the form of doing what you do. Heck, people even go an extra mile and introduce themselves with what they do. So who are you? I am a doctor. Who are you? I am this, I am that. Now, there is no wrong in doing that. It's just that Africans put more weight on the art of being as opposed to the art of doing. Okay? So, Adolfo, again, the ninja who was doing research in all of this and published the book back in 2016, he explains that living a righteous life, again, righteous doesn't really translate to without sin, or at least not seen as many perceive it to be. You see, some people are of the opinion that sinning is committing a type of atrocity that is breaking a commandment set by a deity. And for others, they are of the understanding that sin is just lacking knowledge. And others are of the opinion that sin is missing the mark. And at that point, missing the mark will be departing from the path that is for you. Or it could be missing this mark or blood of someone who was crucified somewhere. Whatever it is to you, righteousness, the understanding of it is, again, very, very relative. Nonetheless, African communities held that the spirit of being, of you just being as you are, of me being as I am, is contributing to my quest to living a righteous life. And at that point, it allows me to be more unified with their ancestor. Or, no, not the ancestor, with the spirit, sorry. So at this point, having a righteous life could be understood as being the most true to yourself, for yourself. Not for anyone else, for yourself. For yourself. You have a responsibility to yourself. Let us go with to yourself first, before the rest of just a responsibility to yourself, before your mother, before your brother, before your sister, to yourself first. And you actively fulfilling that responsibility is a way of living a righteous life. And the more you do this, the closer you are to reuniting with the spirit, with the creator. And then at this point, you become an ancestor when you die. I don't know if like something that is something worth looking forward to, but it's something, you know. I feel as though there's something interesting or appealing about having a conversation with someone who has been watching this play called life happen from the other side, like from an audience point of view, or from a stage, or behind, backstage point of view. It's a bit interesting, it's a bit appealing. Either way, bottom line is Africans had all types of belief systems around spirituality, and even voodoo. Even voodoo is spirituality. Okay, so moving from one region to the next, obviously it varied, but we all had these 6 principles where we just founded our entire belief system on. Okay, first one being not in order, not in order obviously, but the first one being like the nature of existence. This basically saying everything has the essence of the creator, both man-made or natural, made by the creator directly. And the other one is on the essence of maintaining a harmonic flow, just balance the scale. Balance the scale and ensure it is at an equilibrium so that you live a more fulfilled life, basically, a more fulfilled life. The other one is on the essence of the importance of a spiritual and a social hierarchy, and at that point we just recognize the existence and the importance of every other person, from a child to an ancestor. And then we had another principle of the cyclic existence. This basically means life is in cyclic form. You are born, you live, you die, repeat until you are unified with the Spirit of God. And then at that point, you enter the ancestral plane. And then finally, we have the spirit of being, which again helps you get to the ancestral plane. And this ancestral plane is also the same plane where the source is believed or said or whatever to originate from. So you get to be in that level. You and ancestors, same was up. In fact, you are an ancestor. That is my today's take on African spirituality. Obviously, this conversation can be longer. It can be longer, but I hope that right now we all have an understanding of the principles of African spirituality. So next time someone is like, African spirituality is about demon worshipping, where have I mentioned demons now? Where have I mentioned it? And obviously the conversation continues. There is much more to this. We can go deeper if we wanna. If consensually, that is, consensually. Until next time, bye bye. If you liked it, remember to leave a like, subscribe also, yeah? Until next time, adios.